A third batch of documents in the Jeffrey Epstein connected lawsuit have been unsealed today. This was almost 1,000 new pages unsealed.
It's all from a lawsuit brought by an Epstein victim against Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, in 2015.
A lot of these documents are already familiar to me because I've covered Epstein's case extensively from the beginning, and I've acquired and reported on many of them, like the original police reports, depositions, and victim statements. But some of this is new information stemming from the 2015 lawsuit, giving even more insight into Epstein and Maxwell's twisted world and how they tried to shield it from view. Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition reveals how lawyers were drilling down on who else was involved in her and Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. For example, asking about her assistant, Sarah Kellen, who victims alleged helped recruit and manage the girls, but Maxwell testifying, "I have no idea what Sarah Kellen did." "You never observed Sarah Kellen with girls under the age of 18 at Jeffrey's home?" The lawyer objects, and Maxwell answers, "The answer is no, I have no idea." Also asking about billionaire hedge fund owner Glenn Dubin, married to Epstein's former girlfriend and accused by Virginia Giuffre of having sex with her. "Are you friendly with him? How do you know him?" "He is the husband of Eva Dubin." "Is Eva Dubin one of your friends?" "Yes." "Did you ever send Virginia to Glenn's condo at the Breakers to give him a massage?" Maxwell's answer isn't included, but the Dubins have strenuously denied allegations of any sexual involvement. The lawsuit was brought by Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre against Maxwell for defamation after Maxwell said publicly Giuffre was a liar. Newly released legal documents show Maxwell's lawyers were attempting to attack Giuffre's credibility, writing that police reports over several years starting in the late 1990s showed teenage Giuffre's substance abuse, her lack of credibility, her failures of memory, and selective use of law enforcement. Emails also show Maxwell's side was trying to dig up damaging evidence against Giuffre to squash her claims of sex abuse at the hands of Maxwell and Epstein, with Maxwell writing, "I don't want to end up in a lawsuit aimed at me from anyone if I can help it."
Today, a female member of the British royal family is named as an Epstein associate, though she is not referenced to have anything to do with his crimes. Okay. The British royal is Sarah Ferguson.
That's right.
How is she mentioned in these documents?
So she's mentioned as more of a visitor, and we've seen a couple of those types of mentions through these documents. And again, we've heard some of these new names too, some simply as being a visitor on Jeffrey Epstein's plane or at one of his homes, according to his house manager. That guy's name is Juan Alisi, and he gave a videotaped deposition in 2016. And we heard names today like RFK Jr., Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, several beauty queens, along with a Nobel Prize winner. Again, just visitors. We also saw emails and testimony transcripts, this is new, about the idea of somebody possibly carrying a baby for Epstein or Maxwell, something that Maxwell pushed back on in her deposition. An investigator asks Maxwell, "Did you or Jeffrey Epstein ask a female," and they're specifically talking about Virginia Giuffre, "to become pregnant and carry his baby for either you or him?" And she said she couldn't tell them anything that Jeffrey did or didn't do when she was not present. So an answer, non-answer, and told investigators she had never asked anyone to carry a baby for her. And then there's, of course, information now about a price tag for each girl that was brought in. And this is we've heard this before, Elizabeth, that some of the girls were asked to go recruit their friends. And if you do, you will get $200 if you bring us a
Well,
new
that's
girl.
how David Copperfield winds up in this document dump, because he was there just for dinner, but apparently asked one of the young women, "Are you aware that there are girls who are being paid to go recruit other young girls?"
Right, and we're also learning today that some of the things that are new is Virginia Giuffre's boyfriend at the time was also asked to go get girls. And he also reports to investigators that Epstein gave him $200 a girl and says he was paid right on the spot whenever he did, saying, quote, "I'd walk in the door, I'd talk to Jeffrey, then he hands me my money, and I would walk back into the kitchen, say goodbye, and leave." And one of the biggest questions I have is just, why did he check on anybody? Did anybody go back and say, look, we'll give you $200, but things are going to get weird, possibly.
Yeah.
That's
pretty sure he was
part
so
of it.
happy to get the money he might have just left. It's interesting. We did see RFK Jr. Try and get out in front of this. Remember a few weeks ago,
That's right.
He was all of a sudden volunteering. I was on Epstein's plane a few times, and I remember thinking, where is that coming from? He must have known that.
We know.
The Golden Globes. I mean, I can't even believe I'm in the entertainment industry. I can't. You know, it's so unlikely. I'm from a small town in Indiana. I'm not a pedophile. You know?
If you are ever somewhere and you all of a sudden see a 10, you know, and I'm just talking physical attraction, seeing a 10 is not an everyday thing. That's why they're 10s, you know. Women are beautiful, but, you know, like just objectively, like that woman makes a scene when she walks through a room. Mm-hmm. And you see a 10, it's somewhere that they probably you wouldn't normally expect to see a 10. Like you're at a small town bar and you see like a supermodel walk in from, you know, Brazil. You're like, okay, that's weird. And then all of a sudden,
but we're in Akron.
And
it doesn't make any sense.
And then all of a sudden, they are very.
We're in Hoboken.
Yeah.
Why is there?
And then all of a sudden, they're very interested in you.
Yeah.
Just know that person is probably there on purpose, and they're very good at their job, and they are trying to put you in a compromising position. And so,
honeypot.
Yep, honeypot. I have found that the most common thing in Washington that is used to blackmail you and I can't, you know, with whatever organization it's from, within our own government, is honeypots.
Within our own government?
Yeah.
So our own government agency is doing this? In order to have what? Like leverage on a member of Congress?
Leverage, yeah. I mean, you just saw that the FBI just got a building bigger than the Pentagon built for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, and then all of a sudden, think about it. 10 days before the vote was supposed to happen, it was likely it was not going to pass. 10 days before the vote was going to happen, they then, you know, a story got leaked. Things don't get leaked from the FBI. A story got leaked that the FBI had been investigating a brothel in Virginia that is a very high-class brothel. You know, it's $25,000 a night to get in, and just all the, you know, elites that would go there and all of these things. And it said several members of Congress are on the list. But if you notice, they didn't release the names of those members of Congress.
Tonight, we're hearing more from federal authorities who shut down a massive, sophisticated sex ring in Massachusetts and Virginia.
Clients at the illegal brothels allegedly included elected officials, tech executives, military officers, and more.
Federal investigators have not yet named the hundreds of high-end clients, including politicians, doctors, and government workers with security clearances who allegedly bought services.
And what it was, and you know, you can just take my word for it, right? But this is my hypothesis, is what it was is they're basically saying, go against us, don't give us this building, and it's going to be your name on that list.
Man, and you're gonna have to prove the negative. You know,
exactly.
You better have an alibi,
right? And then being in politics, you're not innocent until proven guilty. You know, you're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, that's kind of their whole move.
Did you ever suspect? Did any chick ever come up and hit on you and you suspected they were a honeypot?
Oh, tons.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, and I can't always say like, oh, that was from the intelligence community or that was from, you know,
China,
or
like, we know that's real.
Yeah,
right?
or
like,
was it like
that's
like
confirmed?
was that
like Eric
was that
Swalwell?
Was that from the Democrats? Was that from the Republicans?
Sure.
Was that from this group or that? There's so many groups that have interests in public policy. I mean, it affects literally 350 million people in the world, and then the rest of the world because of it.
Yeah. 7 billion people.
Yeah, and so I'm telling you, like, these people are very creative, and I've had a lot of women who I'm like, that wasn't that funny of a joke, and you're laughing way too hard. Like, I'm going to tell you right now. And like, you know, I accept that I'm a decently good-looking guy. I got blue eyes, a decent jawline, but I also accept the fact, like, I'm in a freaking wheelchair, and I'm like, I don't know why, like, 3 10s all at one time are like, we should all go back together, and I'm like, no, actually, I don't think you guys are real. And then
unpack that story. So that happened?
Oh yeah, that's happened multiple times. But it was not
so like
in DC.
3 women.
Yeah,
they're all smokes.
All smoke shows.
And they come up to you and they're like laughing.
Oh yeah, we're having a great time. We're having drinks.
Tell me about it. So,
yeah, so we're at a bar.
It up. What happened?
We're not in DC. We're in Texas. Okay. At a bar, everything's going great. I was speaking at an event there, so it was well known I was in that area. And then, I mean, you know, I can just imagine because I know how easy it is to follow, you know, political opponents around. You just pay like a PI like $500 a day, and they'll just follow them around. And be like, oh, they're here now. And so, you know, it's easy to be followed around. Like it's very easy to know where somebody is, especially if they have a public name. But anyway, so I'm at this bar. Everything's going great. And then I see a pretty girl. I was like, oh, hey, how are you? And then all of a sudden, some other really pretty girl comes over and joins her and starts talking to me. And then another really, really attractive girl.
Did they know each other?
Yeah, they're saying they're all friends. And then they're like, oh, but they're not trying to go back to their table. They're just staying around me. And I'm sitting there talking to them, and then all of a sudden I just kind of look around, and that, I have a little fire alarm going off. It's like, all these women are way too attractive. It's like, well, ladies, I hope you guys have a great night. I got to get back and all this stuff. And next thing you know, they're like, well, why don't we all come back with you? And
to your room?
Yeah. And I was just kind of like looked at him and smiled. And I was like, as fun as that sounds, I'm a man of God, so I got to get out of here. And man, but I guarantee, like, it's situations like that. It's like no guy is that lucky. Like, it's all of these things. And they didn't even know I was a congressman. They didn't bring it up at all. So it's not like they were being like, oh, this guy's a congressman. They're like, oh, so a guy in a wheelchair with blue eyes. I mean, my blue eyes are great. Don't get me wrong. But it's not worth, 3 smoke shows for whatever acts they wanted to do. And I guarantee, like, if you go and partake in stuff like that, you're going to wind up on the front page of something when you don't vote the right way.
You're going to wind up compromised. Do you know other members of Congress that took the bait and are compromised? You don't know how to name them, but, like, do you?
I've seen guys, get with really, really pretty women, and, you have the suspect it.